One activity available in Moodle is the lesson activity. Lessons allow teachers to add question pages and content pages for students, and the teacher can also determine where to navigate the student based on the question and the question answer. A really great feature about the lesson activity also is that teachers can require students to complete the activity and spend a certain amount of time in the activity in order to meet the requirements. So let's go ahead and look at how to set this up. From your Moodle course, you're going to go to Add an Activity or Resource. And from here, you'll see the lesson activity. It looks kind of like a table there. And then you're going to choose Add. Since the Moodle lesson is very customizable, there's a lot of settings to look at when you set up your lesson. So you can see I've titled this Essay Writing, and in this lesson, I'll explain the introduction, body, and conclusion of an essay. If you want students to be able to refer back to a file during the lesson, then you'll add that file here. The progress bar will show students how far along that they are. Then you can decide whether you'd want them to see their ongoing score as they go through the lesson or not. Availability, I don't have this turned on, but if you want to make it available only for certain days, you can. And if you want them to finish in a certain time period, you can do that as well. For flow control, you can decide whether you want the students to be able to review the lesson, go back and review later. And then for the grade, you can take this for a grade, but you don't have to. Right now I have it set for 100 points. They have to make a 70 to pass, and I have that they can retake the lesson several times. Activity completion is something that needs to be turned on in your overall course settings, but this is where you can require students to spend a certain amount of time in the lesson. So as a teacher, I would choose Show Activity Complete when conditions are met, and then the teacher sets those conditions. They can require the students to view it. They can require a grade, they can require that the students reach the end of the lesson, and they can also require that the students spend at least a certain amount of either weeks, days, hours, minutes, or seconds in order to get credit for the lesson. And then they can set an expected completion date here as well. So we'll say here that we want students to do the lesson for at least 15 minutes, and then save and display. You'll see here that I'm in the edit section of the lesson. I can also go back and preview that. And I've got 4 choices: import questions, add a cluster, a content page, and a question page. We're going to mainly look at the content and question pages for now. So when I go to add a content page, okay, as my main content, it's important to go ahead and give this a title so that you know where to navigate back to as you move throughout the lesson. Notice right here I can insert pictures, videos, any kind of content you want the students to view. And then these are going to be buttons that the students can push. So I have one for introduction. And then after they view that introduction page, I'm going to have it jump to a question page. In order for me to see all of these options, I have to actually go ahead and add these to my lesson. So after the body, then I have a content page called Body of Essay, and you'll see that here in a second. And then lastly, there's a conclusion option, and for that, that is going to be a YouTube video. So let's go ahead and look at this. So you see that I've got essay writing as kind of the hub of my lesson. And these are different things that I've added throughout. So I have an open-ended question here. And then the body of the essay. Notice that after the content here, I'm jumping this back to the essay writing. So after they view this one section, I'm going to jump them back up to the beginning of the lesson. And then after the conclusion, when they're finished here, then I have this jump to the end of lesson. So it's really important to notice where your jumps are, and it's good to preview the lesson before giving it to students. So now when we go to preview, you'll see that I've got a general introduction box set up here. When I click introduction, it's going to take me to this short answer question. Depending on how you have it set up, the students might have to get this right before they move on. You can decide if you want that in your settings. Then I got jumped to the body of the essay. So after I look at that, this jumps me back to the beginning. When I go to conclusion, there's a YouTube video for me to watch here. I could then have them answer another question, but for now, I have them ending the lesson here. So these were just a few little things that I've included in here as a sample. Of course, this is not an actual lesson that I would give to students, but Moodle Lessons is a good way to have students be involved in the content and have students view content either ahead of the lesson or maybe even at home for homework. So a lot of different options and settings in Moodle Lesson, and it does take a little bit of time to set up, but once it's set up, it's a great resource as the students retain information.